start a new one. And then I figured out how to make this full screen. Oh, okay. So this is a little strange for me because I'm used to actually teaching with people who can, like, you know, yell at me when I'm being boring or ask me questions and immediate feedback. So please, like, use the chat if you can't see it. I'm sorry, Julie, but it's right there. You can totally use chat, and I can see the chat even though it's on full screen. So I'm just going to start with some basics. Technical content. So when you're writing a piece for you know, any sort of published publication, you still want to think about, I know it sounds really crazy, but that wonderful sentence we learned in, you know, paragraph we learned in high school, where the classic 5-sentence paragraph, you know, I'm going to talk to you about A, B, and C, and then I'm going to give you a sentence about topic A, and a sentence about topic B, and a sentence about topic C, and then I'm going to summarize what I just told you. And so from that point of view, you really don't ever want to have a paragraph that's more than five sentences, 8 sentences. You know, you want to kind of make sure that it's short and snappy. You don't see a lot of, and I know we're not like a, you know, a newspaper, but you don't see a lot of journalism pieces with huge long paragraphs. I mean, the Dickensian idea of like long paragraphs kind of disappeared. I'm sorry, that was probably, well, anyway, okay. So, and here's an example of a website, and it's actually not this one, it's this one. The Foodie Info website about corn dogs. And so, Julie, I'll just read you, well, I won't read you the paragraph. We're going to get to reading some paragraphs later on. But as you look at it, I mean, just looking at it on the page, like, okay, it's an interesting picture of a corn dog, and then the whole paragraph, you just, I don't know, it kind of makes me tired just looking at it. You're like, oh my gosh, look at all those words. So if it were 2 paragraphs, it were even 3 paragraphs, it would sort of punch and be more engaging to the reader just visually, because so much of what you're selling is not just your information, but you're also selling people's ability to want to read about your information. And if it's just, if people look at your stuff and are like, oh wow, that just makes me tired to even think about beginning, then, you know, you've lost before you've even started. So that's no fun. So just short and snappy paragraphs. And we're going to go back to the full screen. Okay, so, and then we're going to, so this 5-sentence paragraph that we all remember from high school, it can be taken into a 5-paragraph, you know, essay where you have the same thing. First paragraph, I'm going to talk to you about these 3 things, and then I'm going to talk to you about this thing, I'm going to talk to you about, you know, topic A, topic B, topic C, and then your second paragraph is about topic A, and your third paragraph is about topic B, and your fourth paragraph is about topic C, and then in your conclusionary paragraph, you summarize the whole thing up again. So just, you know, you want to kind of think about your structure, maybe not in the beginning when you're like in the throes of creativity, but definitely when you go back and edit, you want to be like, okay, does this make sense? And can I move this around? And does this flow from this? And all of that good stuff. So we're going to sort of start at the beginning and talk a little bit about the hook. So we're going to go to the page about the hook. And I'm going to leave this one and go into this one and show this one full screen. Oh my gosh, this is amazing. Okay, so I went to the New Yorker magazine online and took some just excerpts of some first sentences that hook. And Julia, I'm going to read these to you because I think they're pretty fabulous. So, on a recent flight from Tokyo to Beijing, at around the time that my lunch tray was taken away, I remembered that I needed to learn Mandarin, which is just brilliant. This is David Satirist. Some of you may know him. He's a satirist. But, you know, it sets the scene, it like hooks you in, and you're like, why does he, I mean, your next question is like, why? Or like, oh, this is interesting. Your curiosity is piqued, which is what you want. The next one, Sheryl Sandberg has held senior positions at Treasury, Google, and now Facebook. She has ideas about why more women are not making it to the top. So it's not quite as dynamic as the one before, but it gives you the setting, and it gives you the idea of like, wow, this woman's going to say that she's got ideas about why women are not making it to the top. Like, that's interesting. Like, I'm interested that someone who's had all these positions knows, you know, has opinion about this. The next one is one of my favorites. In Greece, tax evasion is the national pastime. And you're like, whoa, like, wow, that's kind of offensive. And, you know, like, people want to read about stuff that's offensive, unfortunately. But, I mean, it works. This is also one of my favorites. I'm going to mispronounce this guy's name. Gasori Hachega began carting potatoes on wooden bikes and worked for nearly half his life before he could afford a Chinese-made single-speed. Now he races for Team Rwanda. So you've set the scene. You totally I'm totally captivated, and it's just a sentence and a half in. Like that is like a great hook. So I'm gonna skip the next one because I want to move on. But I went through all of the blogs that you all have sent to Lindsay, and I read through them, and wow, you guys are doing like such interesting stuff. It was really cool. And I just wanted to showcase some of the good hooks that have been in the writings that you all have sent in. And one of them was, have you ever been to a farmer's market and seen a bin full of bruised or mushy tomatoes for a ridiculously cheap price? So the scene is set. You're at a farmer's market. You've got like, the story is going to probably be about these mushy tomatoes and the fact that they're really cheap and like what you can do about it. Like, what's going to be talking about, and it's interesting. Being a New York City food warrior without a car, I've had to be creative when it comes to visiting farms. Like, that is awesome. Like, you're suddenly like, yeah, of course, she's stranded. She has no car. It's New York City. She tells you who she is, who he is, and that's really cool. The idea of farming has always seemed magical to me. It sets the scene and it hooks you in. Now, the other ones on this page are sentences that were not actually in the first paragraph, but sometimes they were a little buried in like other paragraphs. And I think that's really easy to have that happen, where you're writing and you sort of like get into the groove, and then you suddenly like have this beautiful gem of a sentence, like 5 sentences into a paragraph, which really should be at the beginning of the paragraph. And that happens to me all the time, that you're like, wow. And then you realize when you go back and read it, you're like, oh, that's what I was getting to. And so therefore, if that's what you were getting to, just start with it, because that way you're drawing your readers into the rest of the paragraph. So this one was a really great one. Most cocoa farmers earn less than $1 per day, and 70% of beans come from the Ivory Coast and Ghana, areas where forced labor is all too present. And then the author can go around and talk about, cocoa beans, and talk about, fair trade practices. And I mean, what the paragraph is about, and it's totally captivating from the moment you read that. First arriving at this quiet farm, I was impressed by both the feeling of tranquility and by the graciousness of my host, Amanda, owner and farmer. The stage is set, it's like quiet, it's like, calm, it's a farm, and you have this like wonderful host, and you're going to talk about the farm. Like, people know what you're going to talk about. Arriving at a farm in New York City feels a bit like going down the rabbit hole. Yes, people know what you're going to talk about. It's like awesome. So this last one is also a really great one. I mean, they're all really great, but this one's a really great one. At Theo, they believe one can actually taste the place of the chocolate. And so, wow, you're going to talk for the rest of the paragraph about the terroir of the chocolate, the fact that the wind and the rain and the soil all go into the plant, and that makes a difference. Okay, I've been talking too long by myself. Does anyone have any questions? I know you're muted. Can you all chat or ask, or are we good to move on to something that's not the hook? Can I sort of like say hello for a second? No? Does this make sense? Does anybody think that's... Yes! Okay, good. All right, feedback. All right, well, good. We'll move on. So that's the hook. And then we're going to talk about the conclusion, because the conclusion is as important as the hook in a lot of respects, because the conclusion is it's what you leave your audience with. And so you want to have a conclusion that's, both interesting and also kind of maybe gives more information, like some new thing that people can sort of digest and think about on their own. And this I literally... Thanks, guys. I appreciate the feedback. Good so far. Thanks. All right, cool. Sorry, don't read that at the same time. I can't click on that. Okay, so conclusions. I got this off of a Wellesley, or maybe it was UNC, some college. They all put this online now. It's really nice. And I really like some of the strategies that they had at the bottom. And I'm just going to sort of read this, is that one or more of the following strategies that they feel can help write an effective conclusion is playing the so what game. That, like, unfortunately, you kind of have to sell what you're doing to your audience. And so you don't have to have a friend ask you this question, but if you ask her this question, like, so what? Why should anybody care about this? So they have a little dialogue, like, you. Basically, I'm saying that education was important to Douglas. Friend, so what? You. Well, it was important because it was key to him feeling like a free and equal citizen. Friend, why should anybody care? You. It's it's important because plantation owners tried to keep slaves from being educated so they could maintain control. When Douglas obtained an education, he undermined that control personally. So it's really getting to, like, the crux of, you know, does anybody care about this? Why are we reading this? Why did we just spend 5 minutes of our very busy schedules spending time doing this? And then also, you know, they go through obviously you reiterate the same themes in the introduction. You don't want to simply repeat it, but you want to sort of say, you know, this is great, and then look what we can do with it. Pointing to broader implications, et cetera, et cetera. Those are all good things. I'm not going to read this whole thing because it's a lot, but I like the, at the bottom, I've put some good conclusions that you all wrote in your Food Warrior blog post that you put in. And I'm just going to read them because they're really great. We all can have a home harvest, whether living in a tiny apartment with 5 roommates or homesteading on our very own quarter acre. All it takes is healthy soil, some seed, and love plus time. And that's really nice. It leaves you with a great feeling in your mouth. You're like, wow, yeah, you know, like, I could do this. I just take some love. Like, everybody has love, and I could love the earth. And I mean, that makes you leave with, like, a really great taste in your mouth. A visit to the Huntington Ranch is living proof that a city such as Los Angeles can, if in fact, little typo, coexist with agriculture, and that we as a society can choose to re-engage with our food system. That one, I love conclusions like that. It's like a call to arms. Like, come on, guys, we're re-engaging with our food system. Like, oh, like, I mean, you know, that's awesome. Like, we can do this, and this is so you leave once again, great feeling in your mouth, like, oh wow, I can do this, I can change the world one step at a time. So that's exciting. While urban farming is not new, it is currently very fashionable, as evidenced by an article in the latest issue of Vogue magazine on a book entitled blah blah by Lisa Taylor and the Gardeners of Seattle, and then it has the link. I'm on board with this trend and encourage all city dwellers to hunt for urban farmers or do it yourself. So this one is really a good example of when you, in your conclusion, you sort of say what you've talked about, and then you give just a little nugget of more information so they can go find out about something else on their own. And that's always fun when it's like, oh, I can look into this on my own, and I can do something else. You know, it's sort of a call to linking something else, I guess, after that. And the last one I thought was really great. The only thing that can improve my role is if it were my food waste from that meal at the crow's nest that was nourishing the pigs. The problem is that after a meal at the crow's nest, there's never anything left. So I'm going to take a moment here and pause the recording.